Okay. So good evening, good afternoon, good morning to people who are joining us online. Thanks for registering for this event. I'm hoping that, like other Genesis Tech Talk that we have had so far, you will enjoy this edition as well. We'll start quickly with introduction to the IC. We'll talk about what IC is, and then I will hand it over to Alcide, who will take us through the sustainability presentation. Uh, So, what is IC? We are basically a not-for-profit organization based out of UK. We are affiliated to the Engineering Council of the UK, and we are a certifying body which awards memberships to professional engineers across the globe. With over 92,000, in fact, it's slightly different now. In fact, it's slightly dated. We have about 95,000 plus members globally across all those many countries that you see on the screen. Uh, so, being a qualifying body, we actually also have a significant say in the infrastructure, especially in the UK, where some of our senior members are actually they work very closely with the UK government, helping them devise policies to help provide better infrastructure in the UK. Likewise, UK IC is very well known for the knowledge resources that it provides, considering that we are a 200-year-old plus organization. So we have got a very strong, a very rich knowledge resource available with us, and this is available through multiple different means, including a physical library, a vast digital library which can be accessed through various sources. And again, if you have any questions about this, feel free to contact me, and I'll be more than happy to help. Benefits of memberships: being a world-renowned body of civil engineers, we are very well recognized across the globe. Membership of IC is actually very highly coveted, and brings in a lot of value to our members, provides a platform where people can connect, interact, learn, gain knowledge, gain benefits like, for example, benefits through the IC rewards and IC benevolent fund. Again, if anybody is interested to know what these are, how to avail these benefits, feel free to contact me, and I'll be providing my coordinates soon. As far as membership grades are concerned, you have it on the screens right now, starting from the student member, especially for undergrads. Then subsequently, post completion of your graduation, you can become a graduate member. You can apply for graduate memberships online, and then subsequently become a member by applying for the membership, a full membership, along with a chartership as well. And because IC is affiliated to the Engineering Council of UK, the chartership actually is awarded by the Engineering Council, and IC actually provides a means to do that. The highest grade of membership is actually the fellowship, and that's something that, if you're interested, again, feel free to contact me or Patrick Courtney, who is our international membership manager, and he can help you as well. I'll provide coordinates of Patrick as well. As far as working through your charterships is concerned, I think various steps are required for each one of the professions to undertake, as you see them on the screen. And there's a link available which you can go to the IC website, click on that link, and get some videos which actually help you understand how to become a chartered member. Patrick Courtney, that's him. He's the international membership recruitment manager, and he actually provides guidance to various members who want to become professionally qualified and become full members of the IC and avail the IC membership rate. So those are the coordinates of Patrick. Feel free to connect with him directly. If you need any help connecting with him, feel free to contact me, and I'll be providing my coordinates subsequently. So that's me. I'm the regional representative of the IC in Mumbai. Those are my coordinates. I incidentally also am one of the approved mentors amongst 3 mentors in the Mumbai region itself. That's the membership base that we have in Mumbai. We conduct IC professional reviews every year in the month of April. Again, if anybody is interested to understand how that process works, how to connect to that process, what are the resources available, and so on and so forth, feel free to contact me. It's important that we do realize that it's important to be relevant to our professional members, and in order to do that, we have actually hosted multiple different activities within the Mumbai region for the last few years. We started off with this Genesis Tech Talk series, a picture of which you see right now, and today you are witnessing we are witnessing the 23rd edition of the Genesis Tech Talk. We have tried to cover a wide range of topics. We have gotten experts from all different walks of life who have shared their knowledge, who have shared their experience through this platform. And we are very proud to sort of continue working through bringing better value through these tech talks, and help you gain and learn more professionally. In addition to Tech Talk series, we have been conducting various site visits. We have conducted site visits to the Mumbai Metro Tunnel projects to understand how the TBM works. Just recently, in fact, just a couple of weeks back, we visited a site in Churchgate, and we also visited the Statue of Unity during its construction stage itself. And we had some extremely valuable knowledge sharing, knowledge gaining experience when our members visited the site. We continue to bring in similar such site visits and help to add value to each of our engineers. Again, if you have any ideas, if you think that we can do something differently, where you believe that will help you professionally, feel free to reach out to me, and I will be more than happy to help, and also organize events or any activities that will actually enable you to gain more, learn more, and provide a platform to grow professionally. Just late last year, IC actually has launched the Enabling Better Infrastructure initiative, and I will quickly show a video which talks about what this initiative is. Right. So with that brief video, we will quickly talk about various resources that are available right now. And if you go to the IC website, you should be able to see significant quantum of resources actually available. There are some very interesting uh, infrastructure plans which have been created by various countries and adopted successfully across various countries. And you will be able to have access to all of these plans, understand how this really works in different geographies, learn from experiences shared by others through this report that you see online. So feel free to access this resource. Now, if you have any questions about this, feel free to approach me. And again, I will be more than happy to help over here. Uh, with that brief introduction to ICE, what ICE does, what we do within the Mumbai region, I thank you for your patient listening, and I request Alcide to take over from here. Uh, as far as introduction to Alcide is concerned, we have already shared the details of Alcide. He works for Kalpataru as the head for innovation and quality. Uh, he uh, he has undertaken advanced management program with Harvard Business School, and also is a graduate engineer, civil engineer from VJTI, which incidentally happens to be same as my college as well. So, Alcide, welcome for this. First of all, thanks to accept to talk today. And if you can share your screen and comments with your presentation, that would be great. Thank you very much. Alcide, we can't hear you. Can you just unmute yourself? I think there's some issue on your side.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear. Thanks.
All right, I'll just share my screen and we'll get moving in a bit. Okay, good evening, everybody. If you're in India, if you're elsewhere, good morning, good afternoon, and in some cases, even good night. So I would like to thank Rajesh for giving me this opportunity to speak on a topic which is very, very dear to me. And it's not just dear to me, but I'm sure it's dear to a lot of you as well. So to begin with, why is sustainability so important? Most of us today, we are working so hard and very, very keen and eager to leave a lot of resources for our children. Most of these resources are related to financial resources. How many of us actually worry about leaving a better, cleaner earth to the next generation? And hence, the sustainability report at Berlin very aptly says sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Most of you will agree that today traveling has become a core which most people would like to avoid. For an example, I travel roughly 16 kilometers, 8 kilometers up and 8 kilometers down to office, and I take over 2 hours to travel. And 2 hours is the minimum. I don't even know how much of carbon footprint that leaves behind, but it's not a very pleasant drive. It's a waste of resources, and I'm sure most of us are in this same boat. So I've tried to make the agenda in a manner which will give us a little bit about what sustainable construction is, a peek into the past, green building trends from aspiration to adaptation, challenges in the construction industry, why we are limited in our response today, and what are these limiting factors? Primarily, our ecosystem in which we operate. How could we overcome this through various mitigation measures, such as reducing the cost of poor quality, and how can we convert cost of poor quality into profit opportunity through quality improvement? How can we plug in gaps through lean construction? Things like Kaizen, which are basically small improvements or change for the better, reduced labor dependency through mechanization, upskilling across the value chain. Why is R&R or reward and recognition so important in order to ensure that our organizations are sustainable? And finally, apart from being a responsible citizen, what are the advantages of having sustainable construction? Does it really impact our business? Is it a feel-good factor or an existential issue? What will happen in case we carry on the way we do? So this presentation is all about the triple bottom sustainability, where we talk about the economic benefits, the environment, and society. So let me take you to how construction was done in the past. A lot of it is even today followed, especially in a country like India, which is vast, which has limited resources. We'll go through a few examples of how local materials are used, of how construction is adapted to local conditions. The boom in green buildings over the last decade or so. What sustainable construction is all about, what is GRI and GRESB, and why is it so important in terms of reporting, in terms of investors, in terms of profitability. What is the need of having a living architecture today, which is appropriate to the place and time we live in? It is not just about being green, but it is about well-being. Today, over 93% of the top 250 companies across the globe report triple bottom line measures. And that for them is a board mandate. It is not something which is just done for the sake of doing, but it is something which is mandatory. For those of you living in Bangalore, I'm not very sure whether you have gone and visited the Total Environment Project Wilmans of the Mind. It's a project which is not just sustainable, it gives you an example of how we can integrate our current built environment with the need of the hour. So let's go through some examples which are not of the very past. They are even presently being followed. One of the classic examples is Katkuni architecture in Himachal Pradesh. For those of you who are civil engineers and who are on site, we use this word Kat Kona, which essentially means a square, right? So these are naturally adapted dry masonry structures using alternate layers of wooden beams without any cementing material. The superstructure is made of stone plinth, increasing the strength and protecting it from natural conditions such as snow and groundwater. These structures have high resilience and flexibility. They are also locally adapted to tectonic tremors and natural temperature control through double-skinned walls. These are very, very similar to the hollow core slabs that we use in modern construction. It's also very similar to the GFRG, which is glass fiber reinforced gypsum, which is also commonly used today in modern construction. The next example is that of bamboo architecture, which is used in Nagaland. Bamboo is locally abundant in the northeast region of India. We all know that. In the traditional bamboo post, they are inserted within the ground as compression members, or more commonly known as columns. They are tied with horizontal bamboo girders, which we commonly call as beams, for shaping and framing of the structure. The structure contains a complete load path for seismic forces. The Nagaland government has also enacted a law and a policy for Nagaland bamboo commercial development. So this is not just supported by the local people, but it's also given a concession by the government. The next example of vernacular architecture is the bungas. And I'm sure some of you have even stayed in these. These are made of naturally occurring materials like clay, bamboo, timber. Again, they provide stability. They are responsive to the climate, sandstorms, cyclonic winds, natural temperature control through wooden frame windows, low-hanging roofs. Incidentally, during the 2001 earthquake, which destroyed a lot of Bhuj, most of these structures remained intact. Now, these were just 3 examples of the past. Coming to the present. This is a familiar sight, the skyline of New York. But why go far? Any of you traveling to Lower Parel or Worli in Mumbai would have seen similar high rises all around. Or if you are working around BKC, you would have seen glass cladded buildings. These are most of the times not in sync with our current environment. They leave a high carbon footprint. They have adverse effects such as urban heat effect, urban island heat effect. And hence there is a continuous effort to encourage green buildings and to make our construction more and more sustainable through site planning, through sustainable and alternate material use, energy conservation, water efficiency, waste management, and very importantly, occupant health and wellness. Just to take an example, how many of you would love to have Italian marble in their houses? Italian marble, as we all know, would have a very large carbon footprint simply because Italian marble comes from Italy. Do we know that we have fantastic Indian marbles, which we get in Rajasthan and some parts of Gujarat, which can also be used, which look equally luxurious? Or are we in only for a name? So in order to mitigate and move on with all this, there has been a paradigm shift in the construction and real estate sector, with construction being the major focus of climate action and interventions. And why has this been so? Because construction is also one of the largest polluters, or it leaves the per capita largest footprint, the carbon footprint. The International Finance Corporation is one of the bodies who is driving positive change within this sector. and it has garnered a lot of international support. In the last few years, through the various initiatives that the IFC does, they have estimated that from 2016 to 2030, there will be an opportunity of 23 trillion in terms of investment that is going to be done within construction in order to positively impact climate change. The EU has commissioned an EcoCities program to promote sustainable development in emerging economies. The Climate Positive Development Program is a recognition-based effort under the C40's Urban Planning and Development Initiative of the world's most ambitious low-carbon projects. The Global Real Estate Sustainability Benchmark has now become the leading environmental social governance benchmark for real estate and infrastructure across the world. So what are the benefits of green building? To start with, less energy consumption, less water usage, materials with low embodied energy, less waste produced, and sustainable transport modes. This is very important. In fact, among the most important points, because to limit your carbon footprint during the construction process has its limitations. But in terms of sustainable transport, we as a country haven't done much yet, and we are all facing the consequences, but a lot is being done internationally. And I'll take you in a bit through what's happening. What are the social benefits? Low or no VOCs, which we all know what are VOCs, volatile organic compounds, better ventilation, higher productivity in office spaces because of the better indoor air quality that we breathe, better health and wellness, local community inclusion for project planning. What are the economic benefits? Many of the developers today, the leading developers in the country, are offering IGBC certified buildings, which are either silver, gold, or platinum. And these are not just for bragging rights. It has been proved through energy audits that a platinum rated building will on an average consume 25% less energy across its life cycle, which would maybe mean 30 years, in some cases even 40 or more. The other economic benefit is if we take care of our own waste, there is a lesser burden on the civic services. MCGM, for example, offers a property tax rebate on municipal solid waste. If your building is IGBC certified for gold or platinum, there is a fast track clearance of MOEF, which is basically the Ministry of Forest and Environment. So there are plenty of benefits, although there is a capital expenditure of 0.5 to 1%, which is over and above the existing construction cost. But this is minuscule compared to the numerous benefits that green buildings offer. So let's deep dive a little bit into these and see what are the different advantages that we can have for some of these that we just went through. The first point is transit-oriented development, or TOD. What are the advantages for the different entities or the stakeholders involved, namely the developer, the government, we as consumers, and finally the environment. To start with, lower cost of construction. Lesser construction due to lower parking. For those of you who are into construction, you know that generally a parking, whether it's a basements or stilts or whether it's mechanical parking, cost a lot and you are not able to recover the money. Because let's assume for discussion, you're buying a flat in Bandra, which would cost between 50 to 60,000 a square foot. The per square feet cost of a parking, even in a place like Bandra, wouldn't be more than 15 to 20 lakhs for, let's say, a 100 square feet place. But if you're selling the same 100 square feet, you would have to pay 50 lakhs if it's the apartment. So the construction cost being almost the same, the cost that you recover from the consumer is very less, and hence building parkings itself is not economical. And hence this is one of the bigger advantages. Better accessibility off-site to mass transport modes. Tax and other incentives such as FSI to build TOD. So the developer definitely has a lot of advantages. How about the government? Infrastructure cost savings due to lower requirements, and we all know what are the infrastructure costs. In fact, the government has promised over 1,50,000 crore investment in the next 3 years. This is a huge amount of money. Ability to offer incentives to promote affordable housing. Stabilize transit ridership and strengthen transit systems. Now just imagine if somebody living in Bombay who, let's say, lives in Kalyan, for those of you who are familiar with Bombay, and has to work in Kulaba, it would take him an average 4.5 to 5 hours to travel. But the same distance, if you're in Shanghai, would take you less than 30 minutes one way. What kind of impact does this have on the quality of your life? Not just that, we reduce dependency on oil, of which we are a net importer. We reduce pollution. And I'm sure all of you will know that when you travel 4.5 hours, how do you feel vis-a-vis traveling for 45 or 60 minutes? So automatically you have choices. You can live in bigger, larger houses which are far away from your workspace and yet are very affordable. Your health benefits. Sitting in a car for 4 hours is definitely not something which we would like to, or in public transport. So there are numerous benefits of having a TOD. What is it that the environment benefits with? It's a no-brainer that number one to start with is the emission of greenhouse gases. And that is not just a big killer, but it's also a big factor which is detrimental to not just us as adults, but also our kids. So apart from TOD, what else can we do? Do we consider using alternate building materials such as GFRG, which has less embodied energy, which is basically a hollow construction which has benefits such as controlling the differential temperature between the indoor and the outdoor temperature, which is earthquake resistance up to 8 on the Richter scale, which is fire resistant, It is also a green material and is approved by the United Nations Framework on Climate Change Convention under the Climate Disclosure Mechanism. So you get points for your green building. There are multiple alternate materials such as fly ash and GGBFS, which are basically byproducts of the steel and mining industry, which can again be used. These are not just low cost, but they offer numerous benefits, which are both economic and from the construction point of view. If you look at your screens, these buildings, they just don't look beautiful, but they also combat something which is very, very common in today's built environment, which is the urban island heat effect. If any of you work in the Nariman Point area or even BKC today, or the Lower Parel, Kamla Mills area, you would know that when you take a stroll down in the afternoons, you actually have to deal with the hot air. And this hot air is the temperature of it is far higher than the ambient temperature. What causes this increase? It is this heat island effect. And hence, what is the answer? Green roofs. On your screen, you have Nanyang University and Bosco Verticale, which is in Milan, Italy. But increasingly, you will find Indian buildings having these green roofs, green walls, green facades. What are the advantages? Having a green roof helps reduce sulfur dioxide by 37%, nitrous acid by 21%, and 0.2 kg of dust particles per square meter each year. There are obviously enormous monetary and other benefits for both government and developers, as we have seen in the last few slides. However, the construction and real estate industry in India is facing several challenges which are partly negating the benefits of green development. What you see on your screen is a few countries which have adopted green buildings. In fact, if you see the percentage of organizations and green buildings in India is going to be doubling from 2018, from only 28% to about 55% by 2021, which means that more than half of all our buildings are going to be green. So if the advantages of being green are so many, are common sense, what is it that prevents us from building green? So this slide just gives us some of the challenges and what developers such as Kalpataru, Tata's, Mahindra's, Godrej are doing in order to ensure that these challenges are mitigated and in fact converted into opportunities. So let's have a look at what these challenges are. To start with, construction is an unorganized sector. We are the second most populous nation in the world, and yet across the industry, there is a 40% labor shortage because most of our labor is migratory. We have lack of specialists in the construction industry. We have the third largest pool of engineers in the world, and yet there are not many specialists when it comes to finishing, when it comes to HVAC or MEP services. The cost of poor quality in construction is as high as 20% of construction cost. With margins reducing today to downward of 15%, in some cases even 10%, how could we afford 20% as cost of poor quality? Most of our training methods today are conventional. Somebody who has learned the trade years ago teaching the workmen, who on an average do not stay on our projects for more than 90 days. So back to square one after 90 days. Ever changing government norms and regulations. For those of us in construction, we know how the laws, whether it's the MOEF or whether it's the civil aviation or whether it's RERA, which impacts the construction industry time and again. And not just that, the different implementation across the different states. The other challenge is lack of reliable data. How many of us know the productivity in the construction industry? With these challenges, when I did a benchmarking with the Singapore government, we realized that we are barely 25% of the labor productivity when we compare ourselves to Singapore. How could we afford this 75% loss just because labor is cheap? Not realizing that we hire more, have lesser productivity, but overall increase cost and time. So what have we done in order to mitigate all of these? The important thing, in my opinion, is awareness and branding. Whether it's for quality, whether it's for sustainability, it is important for us to explain to our stakeholders the importance of all of these. On your screen are some of the initiatives we have undertaken in Kalpataru. We have a quality museum, we have quality parks, we have newsletters, we have different initiatives trying to sensitize the different categories of people we work with. We have trainings at different levels, right from the senior management to the engineers to the supervisors. We have embarked on a train the trainer program wherein we train people from within the system and ask them to train others. And so the cycle continues. Standardized training modules and effectiveness measurement at the end of it. Are the trainings effective? We've gone ahead and shot films on all activities of construction, at least the critical ones, to make sure that if the trainer is not available, he's still reachable to a mass audience through audio and visuals. Different initiatives with regards to audits, with regards to project rating system, with regards to rewards and recognition, which essentially ensures that the machinery, and when I say machinery, I mean not just plant and machinery, but the entire organization is well oiled at all times. We do have celebrations such as the Quality Month celebrations, the Quality Week celebration, Quality Days on sites. Very importantly, especially for most of our engineers, at times we start working in silos. We do not realize the importance of the other important stakeholders whom we work with, namely the product development, the sales and marketing team, the strategy team, the corporate communications team. These people have equal or more impact on whatever we do. And it is important to sensitize them through outreach programs, through different programs wherein they understand how their function interfaces with engineering and with construction on the ground. Mechanization. As I mentioned, we have an overall shortage of 40% across the industry. Can we mechanize some of our activities in order to reduce dependency on labor? Can we use latest measuring tools and techniques for NDT, laser instruments for checking? This will definitely improve not just quality, but increase the productivity. How many of us have adopted Six Sigma within construction? The most common argument I always hear for the implementation of Six Sigma is that this can be done for manufacturing, not for construction. I would like to differ. Six Sigma can be used anywhere. In fact, we are currently doing a project on cost of poor quality and how to reduce it by using the tools available in Six Sigma. Kaizens. Many a times, the initiatives that are done at corporate remain to a selected group of people because they do not percolate at grassroots level. It is important to have innovation cells, innovation councils, quality circles at grassroots level because some of the best ideas come from the people working on the job. If we manage to do this, we'll not just have ideas top bottom, but also bottom up. And we in Kalpataru have used this tool very, very successfully. There are multiple other improvements which can be done, which will help mechanize, automate the different processes that we follow. A little bit on cost of poor quality, and I thought it was very relevant and very important for us to understand that most of the times when we talk about cost of poor quality, we are only touching the tip of the iceberg. We do not realize that there are more costs of poor quality than just rejection, rework, repair, cost of inspection. We almost never consider loss of sales, excess inventory, the additional controls and procedures that we need in order to be compliant. When we fail, the cause of we need to investigate these failures, the cost of it, the fines, the legal compliance, and with RERA, the penalties that you need to pay to the customer. The next slide just gives you a brief insight into what these costs are. They are appraisal cost, internal failure cost, and external failure cost, all of which could amount to 20% or more, at least for the construction and real estate industry. Can we plug these by doing small projects, either which are related to Six Sigma or small improvement projects? I'm sure we can. Even if we were to save half of this cost and add it to our profit margins, we will all become heroes in the respective organizations that we work for. Because the management, at least in today's day and time, will not just welcome you with arms wide open, will make you the driver of whatever you are doing if you were to show them the savings through this initiative. The next is lean construction. It is basically how to make our processes more lean, to eliminate wastages with the same or less amount of resources, how to track defects, rework, movement, waiting, stocking, transportation, to consciously make efforts to eliminate these. The benefits could be enormous. We happen to get a few statistics on the difference in perception between lean and non-lean practitioners. So the pie on your left is the opinion of what lean practitioners think in terms of how our industry is highly inefficient. So 62% of all those surveyed thought that the construction industry is highly inefficient. And now these people were lean practitioners, people who understood the concepts of lean, people who were implementing this in their different organizations. In terms of the non-practitioners, barely 14% thought that this industry is inefficient. In fact, 55% of all non-practitioners thought that they were doing an excellent job and that nothing could be done better than what they are doing. Don't we all think this, especially during appraisal time? But the facts are different from our perception. And there is indeed a lot of gap which can be bridged only by sensitization and knowing the different principles of lean. Kaizens, as I mentioned, is nothing but small improvements of how change for the better can be done across the board, mainly from the bottom. In Kalpataru, we have this not just as a one-off thing, but we publish these case studies across so that rewards and recognition are given to those who have generated these ideas and who have implemented these ideas. Not just that, we then make sure that these are implemented and deployed horizontally across the organization. Mechanization. Why do we need it? As I mentioned, the topmost reason is to reduce our dependency on labor, better quality, consistency in output, faster execution, economies of scale, and competitive advantage. Now, most of you are consumers of real estate. And who among you has not had problems with quality of construction or quality of apartments that you live in? All of these measures that we have just gone through can help not just reduce, but eliminate, and hence have a more happier customer, have our net promoter score go higher, and in these very challenging and competitive times, make our organizations more competitive and lean. I'll just show you some of the few examples which are extremely simple and are available and in the West have been used since maybe 20, 30 years, but are just gaining popularity today in India. Mechanical sanders, smart dynamic concrete, laser levels. These are just some of them. How many of us still use water to do curing when there are curing compounds available since the last 20 years or more? We depend on workmen to tie rebar, but there are rebar tying machines. There are ways to fill holes by PU foam, which are easy. There are tooling kits available, which make the fit and finish of the tiles or the marble far better. There are easier ways to lay blocks through PU foam rather than using mortar. Automation, as you see the screed leveler, just two people leveling that amount of screed in a large basement. How can we automate our entire life cycle? There are many apps available today in the market, and these can be customized to your specific needs. We in Kalpataru use Qcop. There are other apps such as QuickSpec, which are popular in the industry, which essentially ensure that right from design until post handover, the entire system is automated so that there's a trail to know where wastages are. Ownership is pegged on the person doing the job. All of this is captured through a simple smartphone, be it Android or iOS. There is a trail, safety observations, quality observations, snagging, desnagging, non-conformances. Every single thing can be captured in this, and there is a monitoring mechanism with dashboards, with escalation mechanisms, which can be sent to the senior management. A little bit on training. As I mentioned, training needs to be done right from the senior management to the bottom line, which is our workmen and supervisors. And we need to make sure at each level we manage and we train. And we keep training, because this is not just for our business, but it is our responsibility. For a country like India, where the average age is 27, if our youth are not trained and are not capable of getting good jobs, they are a time bomb in the making. Finally, reward and recognition, a very, very important part. No matter what you do, if you don't reward, if you don't motivate, in simple and small ways, all of these initiatives will not be sustainable. And so we have something called as side case sitare. We have various kind of rewards and recognitions throughout the year to make sure that people like to work with us, and not just with us, but they are productive, they are happy, they are eager to learn more and more. And finally, what's in it for us? All through this presentation, we have gone through the different advantages that are there. To start with, efficiencies in construction can be improved by reducing cost of poor quality, by implementations of Kaizen and process improvement, through lean construction, through sustainable materials and processes, and higher productivity through upskilling and mechanization. These will obviously help reduce the life cycle of projects, will reduce the operational cost, will reduce the rework cost, will reduce the fixed cost. If these savings are converted, you could either add them to your bottom line and increase your profit margin, or you could increase the specification of your product through these savings and give a better quality product to the customer at the same cost, or use part of these to increase your profit margin and the rest of it to increase the spec. Which customer wouldn't like a higher specification at a lower cost? This, friends, in my opinion, would be the success mantra for our businesses. With this, I come to the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take your questions.
Brilliant presentation. Thanks a lot, Alcide, for that. It was fantastic. So while we, I would request all participants to unmute their lines and ask questions directly to Alcide. If you're for some reason unable to do that, feel free to type your question in the chat box, and I can relate to Alcide and he can provide an answer. In the meantime, Alcide, I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
First question is about, one of the major challenges that a lot of construction projects face is the quantum of dust emissions, especially in the backdrop of the recent crisis associated with pollution in Delhi. One of the major culprits seems to be construction dust, which again falls in the critical particulate matter size and so on and so forth. Any thoughts about how you can manage those a bit better than what's being done currently? That's the first question. Secondly, you mentioned about mechanization, and I think, being a black belt myself and having run through some of the Six Sigma projects, one of the major challenges that we tend to face is the flexibility of professionals to adopt to new technologies or new practices, because there is a fear of losing a job. There is those kind of sensitive, soft issues actually come forth while adoption of such changes. Uh, how have you been able to manage those on your sites and on your projects, basically? Can you throw some light on that?
Sure. So I'll start with the dust prevention. So there are many ways in which you can take care of this. During construction, if you were to look at one of the major reasons for dust is because of your construction pathways and the roads on which construction vehicles move, where you cannot have a concrete or a tar road because these are temporary roads and vehicles move on it, whether it's a transit mixer or whether it's dumpers or loaders or whatever. And so there are chemicals which you can spray on these, which harden the earth and will prevent dust. Now, apart from this, the other way to do it is to use spraying of water twice a day, which is not a very eco-friendly way of doing it, but these are followed. But the better one would be to use to spray chemicals which harden the earth, and hence when vehicular traffic is moving, there is no dust. That's one. The second thing is, while doing the job, now during my slides I just showed you a mechanical grinder and a mechanical spray plaster and all of these. Now a mechanical grinder, so grinding emits a lot of dust. Most mechanical grinders today, they have a kind of vacuum suction attached to it which sucks in the dust while you're grinding. This is the second way. The third is, there are blowers and massive, the best analogy I can give is something like a vacuum cleaner kind of devices, which can be installed in basements and other places, which suck dust as and when it is emitted. These can be on an auto mode, wherein the moment the SPM content for 2.5 particulate matter goes, let's say, beyond 40 or 50, it would kick in through a BMS system and would start sucking the dirt. Now, most of these are currently also being used in India. It's not something that is only being used in the West. Most of the basements today, most buildings have 3 basements. It is almost a mandate to use these. If not, you will not get your clearances, right? So these are some of the ways and methods that you can take care of dust prevention. So elimination at source is one, and the other is by using chemicals to make sure that, those which are unavoidable, you suppress them, right? With regards to mechanization, now, as I mentioned, that India is the second most populous country, and yet we have a shortage of 40% labor. So this itself tells us that even if you were to introduce mechanization, you still have a gap of 40%, which you need to bridge. And if you don't bridge these, you will never have your projects completing on time. And hence, mechanization would almost be something which is unavoidable. It's not just going to lose jobs. What will happen really through mechanization, and there are a lot of studies done internationally as well, the quality and the level of jobs which are being done move on to one level higher. The best example could be the Indian software industry. 20 years ago, Indian engineers were known only for coding, whether it was the US or whether it was in India where they would have their back offices. And we were doing jobs lower down the value chain. Today, from coding, we have moved to system architecture. Likewise, instead of having 10 masons for grinding, if you have a mechanical sander with a vacuum, they will be doing a less hazardous job, and these same people can be used to do other skilled tasks which are less hazardous to their health, which have higher productivity, and thereby a higher turnaround time, which means that the faster you complete a project, the faster you can go to your next project. Today, there is a backlog of billions of dollars in terms of construction delays. These will automatically be eliminated, and the potential of these people will be unlocked to do different and newer things, which are higher up the value chain. And hence, it is important to have mechanization.
Yeah, wonderful. That's really good to know. We have got a question online from Sumit Negi, who's asking a question. Um, as you said, in India, green building growth is approximately 20 to 55%. I guess there are new concerns, but can you put some light on making existing buildings into greener and sustainable options?
Oh, I think that's a very, very good question. And I think the best example I can give you is that I used to work with the Tatas. And if any of you know, the global headquarters of Tatas is Bombay House, which is in Fort in Mumbai. And they did a retrofitting about 2 years ago. They spent a reasonable amount of money doing this, but it was only a fraction of the amount that they are going to be saving in terms of energy costs for the next 100 years, because this building itself is over 100 years old. So there are multiple things which can be done. To start with, look at your HVAC, which is basically heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. From window ACs, can we move to a chiller plant, which is in the basements? The kind of materials that you have used in terms of your lighting equipment, can you change those? Can you use sensors so that the lights switch off and on depending on whether it's being used or no? Can you have LEDs? Can you have video conferencing facilities instead of traveling to all over the place? Can the materials used, like as I said, Italian marble has a large footprint. Can we use Indian marbles? Can we use wood which is locally available? So there are a number of ways in which we can ensure that these old buildings are retrofitted and made energy efficient. In fact, in the West, it is extremely popular, whether it's a palace or whether it's a global headquarters of an organization. Increasingly, retrofitting is a big business in itself.
Yeah, that's a great answer. So thanks for that too. Another question I have is, when it comes to looking at aspects related to implementation of Six Sigma, I mean, one of the biggest things that typically managements do ask is, what is the benefit that the corporation actually, or the company gets? Can you share any details about what kind of percentage benefits, maybe in terms of rupees in crores, or as a percentage of the total revenues that Kalpataru actually has, you are able to secure purely because of the fact that you have embraced business excellence and lean tools in adopting or rather in your execution of project spaces. So anything that you would like to share in terms of the dollar value that benefits that the corporation is directly able to leverage, or in terms of total percentage of savings, so that it really becomes a very compelling proposition for any company to pursue and adopt these practices.
Right. So about 2 years ago, I presented a paper at the American Society of Quality Southeast Asia Conference on COPQ. And there is a lot of research to show that the COPQ across the construction industry is upward of 20%. Now, many of these are not within our control because of the ecosystem in which we operate. Now, I would take a rough estimate, and we actually did this on paper because we did a live project, and currently also we are doing a live project in Kalpataru, where easily, if you implement all of these measures right from your design process until handover, I would think that a saving of 6 to 8% is easy. Right? Now, just imagine if your margins today are shrinking and going below 10%, where in some cases it is even becoming unsustainable to run a business. If you add 6 to 8% to your bottom line, you're actually doubling your profit margin. And hence, I think it's a no-brainer that all of us need to do this, because it is not about whether you want to do it or no. It is, if you don't do it, you will simply not exist. You will not be sustainable. It is today an existential issue. You need that 6 to 8% to be added to your bottom line in order to be sustainable as a business. And these measures can easily add that. And again, 6 to 8% is very conservative. And I'm assuming all the limitations that are there in the thing that are there in the construction and real estate industry are here to stay for some time. So despite this 6 to 8%, if we are able to change things faster and move to where the West is, then it's upward of 10%. Sorry, Rajesh, I'm not able to hear you.
Yeah, sorry. I did not unmute myself, so sorry about that. So yeah, I think that's pretty interesting to note that you're able to double your margins if you adopt these practices and embrace these methodologies going forward. I think with that, and with the fact that we are already 15 minutes over the time, I would like to thank everybody who joined today's discussion. Again, as I would like to remind that today happens to be the first World Engineers Day for Sustainable Development. I think the context of this topic today was very pertinent, considering today's special day. And World Engineers Day is being celebrated for the first time, and from next year it will be every year the same day. So please bear in mind that we are living in a world where sustainability is practically a no choice anymore. We have to think about sustainability all the time, especially considering that we are faced with serious challenges associated with managing waste, e-waste particularly, managing with climate change issues, and so on and so forth. And I think the challenges will only grow if we really stop paying significant attention to these issues. So again, thanks a lot for your patient hearing. I would like to give a special thanks to Esther and Alcide for doing for this wonderful presentation. Thanks a lot, guys, and you all have a good evening and have a great day for those in the West. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rajesh. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Okay, bye-bye.